When the maid discovered the dark truth, the guest was the hotel's secret owner. The sound of a distant storm rumbled in the midnight sky as Maria, the maid, shuffled down the opulent marble hallways of the Lux Royale Hotel. The flickering lights cast long, eerie shadows that danced along the crimson carpets. It was just another night at a place that glittered with secrets, one that seemed to draw in the wealthiest of patrons. But there was more beneath the surface, and she would unknowingly scratch the dangerously thin layer of it that night. On the sixth floor, the door to Suite 606 stood ajar, emitting a halo of light that flickered ominously. This wasn't just any guest. He was different from the rest. Rumors whispered he was a recluse, but Maria felt something lurking behind his carefully crafted facade. The rich smell of cologne mixed with the scent of something burnt. Her heart pounded louder with each step. She could feel tension in the air, thick as fog. What could be happening inside? In a moment of bravery, she pushed the door open. The sight sent her breath hitching in her throat. Papers were strewn everywhere, like the aftermath of a sudden storm. But it was what she saw on the wall that froze her blood. An intricate diagram, one that connected the hotel management to something far more sinister. Notes in handwriting too hurried to be legible filled every space, and the final phrase caught her eye. Control the hotel, control the city. A chill ran down Maria's spine. Who was this guest? She thought she'd only be tidying up, but what had she stumbled into? The sound of footsteps echoed just outside the door. Panic surged through her. Her hands trembled slightly as she glanced back at the chaos in the room. Should she run? Should she scream? From somewhere deep inside, she felt the weight of injustice and a pressure to uncover the truth. But at what cost? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Tension whirled thickly around her as she slipped out of the suite, her heart racing faster than the quelled screams that clawed at her throat. She stood at the edge of the hallway, the grand chandelier glittering above like 1,000 eyes watching her. Whatever she'd seen, she knew it was too late to turn back. The secret hidden in that room was about to unravel, and she had no clue yet how deep it would go. Who was this man really? What power did he hold? As she took a step forward, the heavy door of 606 swung open behind her, revealing a tall silhouette, an unsettling grin stretching across his face. Looking for something, Maria? Her world tilted, answers just out of reach, darkness closing in around her. What was the truth, and would she ever escape the maze she'd just entered? Maria's breath hitched in her throat. She froze, heart hammering as she stared into the enigmatic eyes of the man before her. The dim light from the suite pooled around him, casting long shadows that felt alive, crawling toward her like tendrils of dread. Why yes, I was just, she stammered, her back pressing against the cool wall, searching for an escape route, her mind racing. Just what, dear maid? Dusting off old secrets? His voice dripped with sarcasm, the grin widening until it felt like a chasm. He stepped closer, the air thickening with his presence. I heard noises, she lied, hoping to mask her fear with bravado, but tremors betrayed her as she tried to regain control. With a swift motion, he waved his hand, gesturing to the chaos inside his suite. You can see I didn't ask for room service, yet here you are, bearing witness to my little research project. Fascinating, isn't it? Maria felt a wave of nausea wash over her. Research project? Those weren't just random papers. They were a map to manipulation, to control. Was it really just a project, or was it something deeper? The storm outside thundered, a reminder of the turmoil swirling in her heart. "What do you want?" she burst out, determination flaring through her panic. This was no ordinary man. This was the shadowy puppeteer who held the strings of the hotel, perhaps even the city. He chuckled softly, walking around her, his presence looming larger than life. "That is the question, isn't it? What do I want?" He studied her, his eyes piercing, as if he were gauging her worth. "I want to know how deep your curiosity goes. I want to test your loyalty and your courage." The words dripped with menace and twisted temptation. Maria's thoughts raced, desperately seeking any hint of a plan. Why was he toying with her? What game was he playing? "If you know me, then you know I'm not afraid of danger," she said, forcing steel into her tone, though her knees felt weak. "Ah, but danger has different faces, Maria." His smile faded, replaced with a sinister seriousness that made her skin prickle. "You see, uncovering secrets can be a dangerous affair. You find layers you never wish to peel back. Are you willing to gamble your life for knowledge?" The echo of his question lingered in the air, heavy and suffocating. The storm intensified. Rain lashed against the windows, mirroring the turmoil inside her. Was she ready to face whatever darkness lay beyond that door? She sensed the allure of hidden truths, but where would such knowledge lead her? An electric tension hung between them, the conversation a dance on the knife's edge as Maria weighed her options. Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the sound of hurried footsteps echoed down the hall, a sudden interruption that sent a jolt of anxiety coursing through her. "Maria?" came the urgent voice of her colleague Jessica. Maria turned instinctively, her chance at escape slipping through her fingers. "You're in a perilous position, Maria," the man whispered, stepping closer again, his voice low and seductive. "But if you want answers, you must make a choice, now." Before she could answer, the door swung shut behind her, sealing off the fleeting light of the hallway. Darkness enveloped her, and with it, the weight of fate hung heavy in the air. Would she plunge into a world of shadows, or try to break free while she still had a chance? The thunder crashed overhead, a declaration of the storm's fury. Her heart raced, caught between the realm of knowledge and peril. What would she uncover next? And more importantly, would she still have the chance to escape? As the door blocked her path to safety, one of the papers she had overlooked fluttered to the floor, whispering its secrets. Maria leaned down, trembling, her eyes scanning the chaotic words. The faintest hint of a name glared back at her, a name that sent ice racing through her veins. And it was then, beneath the impending storm, she realized the truth was worse than she'd ever imagined. Maria's hand shook as she grasped the paper, the name written on it like a branding iron pressed against her mind. It was a name she had heard whispered in dark corners of the hotel, clandestine conversations too hushed for her ears, but loud enough to send waves of trepidation crashing over her now. "Why are you hesitating?" the man taunted, his shadow stretching toward her, seeping into the corners of her vision like ink spilled on white paper. This is the moment when most choose, embrace the darkness or flee into the light. She could feel the weight of the choice bearing down on her chest, every heartbeat a steady drum urging her toward action. Jessica's voice echoed in her head, a lifeline cut short, ground out by the force of this man's presence. For a split second, Maria considered running, shoving open the door, and fleeing down the hall, but something about his challenge anchored her in place. "What if I don't care about your secrets?" she shot back, summoning the last vestiges of her bravado. "What if I just want to leave?" "Leave?" His laughter was low, resonating through the shadows. "But then you'd miss the truth that lies beneath your ignorance, that blankets you in a comforting delusion." He stepped closer again, his gaze now so intense she could hardly breathe. "Knowledge can be a double-edged sword, Maria. Sometimes it cuts deep, and other times it sets you free. The room trembled as yet another crack of thunder followed, a furious reminder that the storm outside mirrored the turmoil in her heart. She glanced back down at the paper, tracing the cryptic symbols and the name. It carried weight, the kind that could shatter lives. "What do you want from me?" Maria finally managed, her voice almost a whisper. The sudden vulnerability was unsettling. She was both terrified and intrigued. "I want to show you what true power looks like," he replied, his voice a velvet whisper that dripped with seduction and danger. "When you understand what you uncover, if you have the courage to go beyond mere curiosity, you'll grasp why secrets are worth their weight in gold or blood." Maria fought the rising panic in her throat. Was this a game? A trap? The urge to bolt surged, but she brushed it aside. She couldn't let fear dictate her fate, not now, not when she had come this far. A new thought pierced through the chaos. If this man was the hotel's secret owner, then everything she thought she knew about the luxurious facade crumbled like ash. Her curiosity clawed harder at her insides. What power did he wield? What skeletons lay hidden in this so-called paradise? As she hesitated, debating her next move, he extended a hand, offering her a chance. "Join me," he beckoned, "and I can show you everything you seek. Or walk away now, and remain in blissful ignorance." The tension crackled like the storm, electricity weaving through the air. She was at a precipice, a fork in the road leading either to enlightenment or ignorance. Jessica's urgent voice rang in her head, a reminder of responsibility. I can't abandon her, Maria thought, her instincts grappling with her desires. But had Jessica truly understood the stakes? So many lives intertwined in this deception. What would the truth cost her? Would following him lead to saving others or plunging her deeper into darkness? "Choose," he said, his tone almost bored now, as if he expected her to comply. With every ounce of determination surging within her, Maria raised her chin, the trembling uncertainty replaced by a fierce resolve. "I'll take that risk," she declared, her voice clear amidst the chaos. "Show me the truth." In that moment, there was a shift, a ripple of something ominous yet exhilarating coursing through the air. The doors of knowledge had swung open, and a flash of uncertainty sparked in his eyes. But before they could cross the threshold, the power suddenly flickered, and a loud crash echoed from the hallway. What was that? Maria gasped, alarm flashing through her eye. In an instant, the world outside the door flooded into the room, a mass of noise, urgency, and chaos coming for her. And just like that, Maria's fate twisted in yet another unpredictable direction. Would the secrets she sought now become the very shackles that bound her? The answer lurked in the shadows of that crashing wave. The noise in the hallway surged like a wild river, breaking the stillness that had enveloped the room. Maria's heart raced, an erratic drum pounding against her chest, as she darted toward the door. She needed to know what was happening out there. "Wait!" the man warned, moving to block her path. His eyes glimmered with a mixture of warning and curiosity. "You have no idea what you're stepping into." She didn't care. The urgency clawed at her, stoked by fear and the remnants of her bravery. Shoving past him, she flung the door open. Chaos erupted. People were running, faces contorted in panic. A few dark figures darted down the corridor, their movements sharp and decisive. A scream pierced the air, raw and chilling. That sound froze her in place. "Get back!" someone shouted as a shadowy figure lunged toward them. A chair toppled, crashing to the ground. Maria stumbled backward, but the man she had almost trusted caught her elbow, pulling her back against him, shielding her from the madness spilling into their space. "Stay close to me," he murmured, his voice murky with tension. "It might get dangerous." The fear in her gut twisted tighter. What is going on?" Her voice trembled, barely breaking free. "The hunt has begun," he replied, his eyes narrowing as he searched the commotion unfolding. "They're after what I promised to reveal to you." Maria's mind raced. Had his promise led to this? A kind of dark chase, a violent alarm that had roused the very abyss she had toyed with. She had wanted the truth. Had she just summoned chaos instead? The man's grip tightened on her arm. We need to move. This wasn't the plan. None of this was supposed to happen yet. Yet? That word echoed like gunfire in her brain. You knew this would happen? They can't allow us to uncover the truth, he hissed, urgency edging his tone. Not if they know you're with me. You don't understand, Maria. You have no idea how deep this goes. Thunder cracked again, but out in the chaos, another sound ripped through gunshots. Panic swelled as screams turned into cries of horror. Instinctively, Maria ducked, heart thundering in response to the echoing violence. Follow me, he ordered, pulling her away from the door. We need to find the stairs. Numb with disbelief, she ran after him, glancing back at the signs of wild desperation behind them. Shadows flitted in stark flashes of light as the storm raged outside, casting the hallway into a shifting landscape of dread. As they reached a staircase obscured by the mounting chaos, Maria felt her resolve harden. She had come too far. She had followed the thread of secrets woven tightly into the fabric of the hotel, and now, with this turmoil brewing, she couldn't turn back. Wait! She pulled his arm before they flew down the stairs. Why did you choose me? Why me? His gaze bore into hers, intense and searching. Because you're stronger than you realize. Because you might be the key to change everything. A deafening crash sent vibrations through the building, sending them stumbling down a step. A door was burst open above, a rush of people struggling to escape the madness. They dove into the nearest doorway, hearts racing as they found themselves in a dimly lit storage room filled with forgotten treasures and shadows. Maria's pulse still raced from fear, but excitement bubbled within her. What if she really was the key? Would following this dangerous path finally bring her the truth about Jessica? Do you seriously think we can face whatever's out there? She asked, breathless in the overlapping storms of chaos. We have to, he replied, eyes flickering with purpose. Or we lose everything. But just as Maria was about to respond, a sudden crash echoed behind them, a grave reminder that their reality was more perilous than imagined. What awaited them in the dark was beyond comprehension, a reality steeped in danger and power. Steeling herself, Maria realized she was on the brink of discovering more than just the twisted secrets of the hotel. Would they confront the truth together, or would fear seize her heart first? The role she had chosen now loomed with every heartbeat, and the shadows around them were waiting, hungry for the final reveal. The dim storage room smelled of dust and decay, the remnants of a forgotten era echoing in its walls. Crates piled high blocked most of the light, casting strange shadows that twisted and danced. Maria's heart raced, each thud echoing like a loud drum in her ears. The man, his face stern and tense, scanned the narrow space. What do we do now? Maria whispered, fear clawing at her throat like a vice. Listen, he said, dropping his voice to a near-silent hiss. We can't stay here long. They'll be looking for us. We need to find a way out. A loud crash from outside sent a tremor through her body. She felt fragile, like glass. What did you get us into? She spat, her voice barely a whisper but laced with anger. It's not just me. You're part of this now, he shot back, urgency coloring his tone. Stop thinking about blame and start thinking about survival. The truth of his words hit her hard. She hadn't signed up for this. The whispers of danger had always been whispers until now. Everything felt surreal, like she was living in a waking nightmare. Maria stepped back, her hand brushing against an old, dust-covered trunk. She opened it hesitantly. Inside lay a collection of documents, brittle and yellowed, pages filled with names she didn't recognize, but felt an unsettling familiarity towards. What are these? She asked, pulling one out and squinting at the faded text. Classified contracts agreements, he responded, his voice tight. They detail arrangements between the hotel and certain individuals. The words echoed in her mind. Individuals? Who? The tension in the room thickened, and he took a glancing look over his shoulder. People who will stop at nothing to protect their secrets. Another crash sounded, followed by heated voices outside. Anxiety twisted in her stomach. Maria tried to focus on the papers, but her mind drifted back to the chaos above. Do you really think we can trust each other? Before he could answer, heavy footsteps approached. Panic-amplified adrenaline surged through her. We have to hide, she shouted, retreating deeper into the shadows, dragging him with her. He nodded, but his eyes flickered with hesitation. No! We'll face whoever it is. There are more answers here than you realize. Just a second later, the door swung open, blinding light pouring in. A figure stood silhouetted at the entrance, the distant sounds of commotion fading slightly. Maria froze, holding her breath. The stranger's voice was calm, almost too calm. We know you're in here. It's only a matter of time. Maria's pulse raced, the words chilling her to the core. What do they want? She whispered, looking up at him. Control, he replied simply. Control over everything we could uncover together. They can't let that happen. As the silhouette slipped inside, the tension escalated. The darkness seemed to thicken, wrapping around them. Maria's heart thundered so loud, she was sure they could hear it. I can't just wait for them to find us, she insisted. We need to act. His amber eyes met hers, catching the haunted glimmer from the shadows. Are you ready to embrace your power? Because once we step out of this, there's no turning back. In that moment, every doubt battled within her. But just then, a distant shot rang out sharp and profane. Maria gasped, memories of fear wrapped tighter around her. Face them, he urged quietly. Right now, we're almost there. Her breath hitched as she tore her gaze from him to the figure, the dim light revealing a sophisticated smile hiding malice. Electricity fizzled between them, a shared pulse tied to an inexplicable sense of fate. Would she really be able to step into the unknown, to confront the darkness? The answer loomed unspoken, but the impending danger demanded choice. Something in her shifted, a flicker of steel within, brave enough for what lay ahead. Then the figure took a step forward, and everything erupted around them. Would she seize control of her narrative, or would fear tighten its grip when faced with the unknown? The figure moved, sliding into the shadows, until only a silhouette remained, elegant yet dangerously poised. Maria's breath felt like razor blades in her throat. Every instinct urged her to run, but she wouldn't. Let us see what you've uncovered, the stranger purred, each word dripping with menace. That trunk holds secrets best left buried. Who are you? Maria's voice cracked, adrenaline spilling her courage like a shattered glass. He stepped closer, and the dim light finally caught his features, sharp lines, cold eyes that glimmered with an unsettling calm. You'll soon learn this hotel is a vault of hidden truths, truths that don't sit well with most. The man beside her shifted, fists clenched and tense, clearly ready for a fight. But Maria could feel ambivalence creeping in. A fight could turn deadly in an instant, but the stranger was right. They needed information more than ever. Enough of this, the figure said, raising a brow mockingly. You think you understand the stakes? Save your bravado. Maria shot a glance at the documents in her shaking hands, her gut twisting. What do you want with these? The past can be powerful, a bargain made here, a forgotten compromise there. You hold pieces, and I only wish to collect the remnants. The door behind the figure creaked ominously, sending waves of dread down her spine. Was there more of them? More people hunting her, eyes set on tearing apart whatever they were trying to uncover. Get out of the way. The man beside her growled. You're not taking anything from her. Courageous, but foolish," the stranger replied, unflinching. "You're both just pawns in a much larger game. Better players are already at the table, and they won't hesitate to eliminate you." With a flick of his wrist, he gestured to the trunk. "You both have something worth defending here. But the question is, do you even know what you're standing for?" As his eyes glinted like shards of glass, the echoes of other footsteps reverberated close, each creak of the floor sending fresh splinters of panic through Maria. Time was running out. "Listen to me," the man said, his voice lower but filled with urgency. "We can't let him divert us. We need a plan. Now!" The stranger chuckled softly, like a schoolyard bully teasing his prey. "Ah, but the plan died the moment you stumbled into the truth. What will you offer in return for your lives?" Maria's heart raced. All her life, she had avoided confrontation, letting others make decisions for her. But now, facing this enigmatic enemy, she felt something awakening inside her. A drive. "Let us leave," she said before she could second-guess herself. "We'll give you the documents in exchange for safe passage." His lips curled into a smile, a snake about to strike. A tempting offer. "But what would I gain from letting you go? I think I prefer to keep my options open. After all, you can't possibly leave before I see everything you've found." With that, the newcomer shifted his weight, revealing a glint of something sharp hidden beneath his coat. Panic clawed at Maria, brewing uncontrollably, as the sense of entrapment engulfed her. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the door behind him, the outside world colliding with their grim standoff. Voices shouted, chaos erupting like wildfire. "Go!" The man beside her screamed, grabbing Maria's wrist and pulling her toward a narrow side exit she hadn't noticed before. Maria hesitated, glancing back at the stranger whose smirk turned into a scowl. "You think you can escape so easily? You have just lit a fuse, and I'm very good at playing with fire." They lunged into the darkness of the narrow passage. The sound of chaos echoed around them, footsteps, yelling, and the unmistakable sound of a gunshot, followed by an eerily intimate silence that fell over the immediate surroundings. As they stumbled further into the night, the weight of her decision bore down heavily. What had she just set into motion? Would their perilous escape draw the eyes of every danger closing in? Or had she merely made a deal with the devil lurking back there? The moment they emerged into the cool air was the moment Maria would forever be changed. Little did she know, choices made in darkness carry consequences that ripple endlessly. How far down the rabbit hole had they just plunged? The cold night air hit Maria like a slap, invigorating yet chilling, forcing her to push harder against the rushing tide of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The narrow alley led them between looming walls, whispers of the past echoing promises of danger and secrets untold. The man's grip on her wrist was both a lifeline and a tether, trapping her deeper into a mess she never asked to be a part of. "Keep moving," he barked, glancing back at the hotel as if expecting the shadowy figure to come hurling out behind them. "We can't stop now." She swallowed hard, the full gravity of their situation crashing over her. How did she ever think she could handle this? With those documents in hand, she unknowingly opened a door to horrors she never fathomed. The pieces dancing just out of reach, elusive as the flickering streetlights that cast distorted shadows. What exactly had she unearthed? They rounded a corner, and the distant sounds of chaos began to fade, but the tension remained thick, almost palpable. Maria could hear her heartbeat thundering in her ears, pulsing a frantic rhythm that mirrored her thoughts. She blinked away the swirl of anxiety threatening to drag her down, her mind racing. "What do we do next?" she managed to ask, struggling to keep pace with her companion whose desperation to escape was rapidly overtaking her own fear. "We need to disappear. Find somewhere safe and figure out how the guy knew about the trunk." He shifted his jaw, his eyes darting around as they navigated the dark streets. You realize what this means, right? It's about more than just those papers. What do you mean? Maria's voice trembled. People don't just die for secrets that don't matter. If he was that interested, it's because something terrible is lurking at the bottom of those documents. Before Maria had time to process his words, they reached the end of the street. A flicker of movement caught her eye, and she froze, feeling her blood run cold. A figure stepped out from the shadows, silhouetted against the glow of a nearby street lamp. "Stop right there," the stranger said, his voice flat yet commanding. "Run!" the man beside her shouted, tugging her back as they darted to the left. But it was too late. The figure sprang into motion, closing in with surprising speed. Maria barely registered the gun before it clicked ominously in the stillness between them. "Don't move or I'll shoot," he warned, his voice infectiously threatening. Maria's heart seized. Instinct told her to freeze. The man beside her was already considering a fight, but she sensed the weight of another option: submission, negotiation, a chance to buy time. "Wait!" she shouted, raising her hands as the world around them narrowed to that one-armed man before her eyes. "We can talk about this." But the man she was with stepped forward defiantly, insisting, "You think you can intimidate us? We don't have anything you want." The armed figure laughed, a cruel sound. "Oh, I think you do. And if you think running is an option, you're both sorely mistaken." Maria's breathing quickened as her mind raced. She couldn't let her companion provoke this man any further. She needed to find the right words, something swift and convincing. Then she heard the crackle of voices behind them, a siren in the distance growing ever closer. The armed man glanced over his shoulder, and in that moment Maria decided to push. "Please, we can help each other. You want the trunk, we both know it's important. Let us go, and we can tell you everything." Time slowed as all three men considered the proposition. A beat passed, tension thickening the air in an almost suffocating embrace. Finally, the man with the gun lowered it slightly, his interest piqued. "You think you're in control, don't you?" Maria could feel her stomach churn. Would this gamble pay off, or had she just pulled another thread in the tangled web they had walked into? "We can," but before she could finish, the blaring sirens erupted into their claustrophobic bubble, sending shockwaves through Maria's core. The armed man's expression shifted, uncertainty playing out in turbulent waves over his features. "Leave," he ordered suddenly, shoving them back into the darkness. "Now! And don't think about telling anyone what you've seen. You don't want to know what happens next." As they fled into the night, Maria couldn't shake the feeling that this was over, that somehow they were on the brink of igniting something far more dangerous than they could comprehend. What had they just unleashed in their escape? And how could she ever truly hope to navigate through the chaos she had initiated? In the dimness, her mind raced, questions swirling like a tempest. They were alive, but at what cost? The night was only getting darker. What shadows waited just beyond the flickering streetlights? Maria stumbled through the alleyways, the chill biting into her skin as she pulled her jacket tighter. Every breath felt laden with urgency, every step taking them deeper into uncertainty. Her mind was a storm, battling thoughts of the armed man and the looming presence of the police. They had been granted a reprieve, but how long would it last? "Keep moving," the man beside her urged again, anxiety cracking through his voice. The weight of his presence felt both reassuring and suffocating. She wanted to trust him, but the gnawing doubt about his intentions sparked like a flame inside her. They rounded a corner, and she noticed a flickering light ahead. It illuminated the entrance of a dilapidated building, its windows shattered and walls stained with years of neglect. "In there!" he hissed, and without waiting for her response, he pulled her inside. The interior was dark and musty, smelling of mildew and decay. They found themselves in a large, empty room strewn with debris. The silence felt impossibly loud, amplifying every rustle and whisper of the wind outside. "What now?" Maria whispered, her voice unsteady as she tried to catch her breath. "We wait," he replied tensely, pacing the length of the room, his eyes scanning the area as if expecting trouble to burst in at any moment. "But what about the trunk? They'll all come for us." Panic clawed at her throat. She felt trapped, not just in this room, but in this nightmare she never wanted. "Look," he said, stopping abruptly to face her. "We need a plan. Those papers, they're not just scraps. They connect to something bigger. It's about power, greed, things that can get people killed." His intensity was palpable, but so was his desperation. Maria felt a surge of determination. "We can't hide forever. We have to figure out who was after those documents in the first place and why. There has to be a way to expose them." His brow furrowed, processing her words. "You're right. But it's not that simple. We don't know who we can trust. Whoever that guy was, he works for someone. We need to find out who is at the top of this pyramid." As they spoke, the tension in the air shifted, the weight of their realization settling heavily around them. Maria's mind flashed back to the fleeting glimpse of the armed man, his cold demeanor and mocking laughter. She shivered at the thought. Let us not kid ourselves. Whoever they are, they're not playing by the rules, he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. He moved closer, lowering his voice, but maybe there is someone we can reach out to. Someone who isn't afraid of making waves. Who? Maria questioned, a flicker of hope sparking within her. There is an old contact of mine, someone who deals with underground networks. If we can get to them, he paused, uncertainty etched on his face. It's risky, but we have nothing to lose. Let us do it then. We have to act before it's too late. Just as determination fueled her voice, a sound shattered the silence, a heavy thud against the door followed by frantic voices shouting outside. Her pulse raced. Hide, he urged, pulling her behind a rotting partition as the door creaked ominously under the pressure. Maria felt her heart pounding in her chest, fear wrapping around her like a vice. She barely dared to breathe as the voices grew nearer, sounding like they were getting ready to burst into the room. Get the flashlights. They can't hide, one voice barked, laced with anger. Do you think they left through the back? Another responded. The tension boiled, and despair threatened to swallow her whole. They were trapped, corners closing in on every side. Just then, a glimmer caught Maria's eye, a small window above head, barely large enough to fit through. Up there, she whispered urgently, pointing. Go, he instructed, urging her towards it, but they both knew the danger. As soon as they made a move, it would all come crashing down. With the thudding footsteps echoing in her ears, Maria's mind raced for an escape. What would they find once they got outside? Could they really trust the contact? Had they already crossed a line from which there was no return? The decision hung heavy on their shoulders. What if this is a trap? He muttered, insecurity creeping back in. But before Maria could respond, the door exploded inward, boots stomping through the broken threshold. They were no longer just players in a game. They'd become prey. Maria's heart dropped. The world outside had transformed into a battleground filled with shadows and threats. What lay ahead of them once they climbed through that small window? And more importantly, would they both make it out alive? The room erupted into chaos as men stormed inside, flashlights cutting through the darkness. Maria's breath quickened, the cold air harsh against her throat. She struggled to stay quiet, her heart thundering like an alarm. The torchlight swept across the room, a harsh spotlight on their hiding place. Search every corner. They can't have gone far. One of the men barked, his growl echoing like a predator on the hunt. With a primal instinct kicking in, Maria turned to the man beside her, whispers tumbling from her lips. We have to move. Now! He nodded, fear mixing with resolve in his hazel eyes. They both peered toward the window again. It felt like freedom and danger all wrapped into one. She glimpsed the alley outside, the dim streetlight bathing the ground in a ghostly glow, a lifeline beckoning them. "On three," he whispered, his voice low but urgent. 1, 2, but before he could finish, a crashing sound sent jolts of fear through her. One of the invaders had spotted the barricade, kicking it aside with a grunt. Maria's instinct screamed at her to duck further behind the rotting wood, but it was too late. "Over there!" the man yelled, pointing straight at them. They made a run for it, adrenaline coursing through their veins, the pounding of their hearts drowning out everything else. She could feel the pressure of the light closing in behind them. The wood splintered beneath them as they vaulted over debris, racing to the window. "Go!" he shouted, pushing her upward with a force born from desperation. She squeezed through the gap, scraping her arms on jagged edges, the cool night air rushing in like a welcoming embrace. But there was no time to savor it. She looked back just in time to see him being grabbed by a burly figure, the grip like iron. "Maria!" he yelled, and she felt her heart twist painfully. "Don't!" she screamed, reaching for him, but then she was outside, instinctively knowing she had to keep moving. He was still in there. Fear knotted in her stomach as she stumbled into the shadows of the alleyway, the dark air thick with unresolved dread. She darted into the safety of the night, her body propelled by sheer panic. Every sound magnified: the distant honking of a truck, the rustle of leaves, her own breath, ragged and sharp. Would he be okay? What could she do? At the moment, her instincts told her running was all she could afford, yet her heart ached to turn back. She pressed deeper into the darkness, eyes scanning the streets for any sign of help or danger. Then she spotted something ahead. A flicker of a neon sign. "Open!" glimmering under the night sky. A small diner. If she could just reach there, maybe she could call for help or hide long enough to figure out a plan. Creeping toward the entrance, she hesitated, senses prickling. The light pouring out looked inviting, but it could also be a trap. What if the men were already looking for her? Just as she was about to step inside, the back door of the diner swung open, and a figure stepped out. Maria's heart raced as she recognized the face. It was the contact her companion had mentioned. The mysterious figure was a shadowy man with a large build, dressed in a leather jacket, a knotted scarf covering half of his face. "Are you Maria?" he rasped, barely making eye contact. "Quick, I don't have much time." Her paranoia was at war with her desperate need for sanctuary. "How do you know me?" she shot back, reluctance heavy in her voice. "Your friend sent me. We need to move." He glanced over his shoulder, urgency lining his brow. Before she could respond, a shout rang out from the alley behind her. The men were approaching, faster than she had hoped. "This way," the contact urged, turning to dart inside the diner. With every ounce of her will, she followed, crossing into the safe zone of the unknown. But as the door slammed shut behind her, dread settled into her bones. What did her friend really know about this man? Could he be trusted? And deep down, the question burned with intensity. Was her companion already lost to her, or would the darkness claim them both? As her heartbeat quickened, again, reality blurred. She knew she couldn't stall for long. Time was running out, and uncertainty loomed closer with each passing moment. "Who are we waiting for?" she demanded, her voice steely and shaken. "Just hold on," he said, glancing towards the door. "They'll be here any second." But who exactly were they waiting for? The shadowy figures in the back were just as much a mystery as the fate of her and her friend. Would this man lead her into salvation or something much worse? In the dim lighting of the diner, time felt suspended, heavy with anticipation. The clatter of dishes and the muted chatter of patrons seemed worlds away. Maria's heart raced, each beat echoing the uncertainty that wrapped around her like icy hands. "Where is he?" she finally asked, anxiety clawing at her voice. She couldn't shake the image of her friend being held captive, somewhere in that sprawling hotel, trapped in a web of dark secrets. "Just be ready," the shadowy man murmured, his eyes darting nervously towards the exit. "We have to make a plan, and fast." Before Maria could respond, the bell above the diner door jingled. In walked a figure that sent a shiver down her spine. It was him, the man who had pulled her into this whirlwind of danger. He approached them with an intensity in his eyes, glancing around like a hawk. "We need to move, now." Maria's heart leaped. "You made it." Relief washed over her, but questions bubbled within her like a boiling pot. "What did they do to you?" She looked at him closely, searching for any sign of injury. "It's not me you need to worry about," he replied swiftly. "We're in the crosshairs now. Everyone knows we're here." The contact nodded gravely, the tension mounting between the three of them. "We can't linger. They'll come for you, everyone connected to those documents." "What do you mean?" Maria's voice trembled slightly as she stepped closer to him, urgency sharpening her tone. "What is really going on?" "They control the hotel," he said, locking eyes with her, desperation simmering beneath his tough exterior. "They've built a fortress of lies, and you unknowingly hold the key to expose it. But they won't let you leave without a fight." Maria swallowed hard, weighing the gravity of his words. "Then we have to change the game. We can't just hide. If we don't take action, how many lives will be lost because of their secrets?" His expression softened. "You're right. But it won't be easy. We need a distraction to lure them away while we gather more evidence and find allies who can help us." "What about Jessica?" Maria whispered. "We can't just leave her behind." "Agreed," he said. "But we need a solid plan first." Suddenly, the diner door swung open again. A group of men stormed in, faces hardened and eyes scanning the room with a calculated precision. The contact immediately slid into the shadows, signaling Maria and the man to follow. "This way," he hissed, leading them through the narrow kitchen. They scrambled to the back exit, urgency and fear propelling their movements. Maria glanced back just in time to see the men's eyes narrow as they spotted the trio ducking away. She felt breathless, perhaps from adrenaline or the panic that never seemed to wane. Bursting through the door, they entered the dark alley behind the diner. A labyrinth of sights and sounds, murky shadows stretched around them, cloaking their movements. The man turned to Maria. "This is your shot. If we stick together, we can strike back. Where do we go?" Her voice was barely above a whisper, but the fire inside her grew, pushing away fear. "There's a network of places where we can find allies. People who have seen the darkness of the Lux Royale." He began to move, and Maria followed, heart racing. Pushing through alleyways, they reached a narrow street leading toward an inconspicuous door marked with peeling paint. It looked abandoned, faded by time and neglect. Still, excitement coursed through Maria's veins. This was a chance to reclaim control. "Once we're in, I'll contact my informants, people who can help expose everything," he said, urgency lighting up his eyes. "You ready?" Maria nodded, heart pounding with resolve. She felt lighter with purpose, as if the storm raging within was finally guiding her to a calm harbor. As they entered the building, the shadows wrapped around them like old friends, both comforting and foreboding. Maria knew the path ahead was veiled in uncertainty, but she felt ready. Her life, her choices, the truth, they all coalesced into something huge. Inside, her eyes adjusted to the dim light. The air felt heavy with whispers of long-forgotten secrets, but instead of fear, it ignited her spirit. "We will expose them," she said confidently, shooting a glance at them both. "No more hiding." And in that moment, she understood she wasn't just a pawn in their game. She was a fierce player ready to rewrite the rules. Even if the shadows threatened to swallow her, she'd be the light pushing back. Together with her friends, they clasped hands, a silent vow. As their breath echoed through the narrow space, the world outside continued thrumming with chaos, but within that reclaimed territory, they knew they were about to step into their own power. It was time to unveil the truth and face the consequences, whatever they may be. And so, with hope lighting the path ahead, they plunged deeper into the unknown, no longer afraid of the dark, but resolute to own their story and the truth within it. Now, hold your breath, because what happens next is a seismic shift. You need to subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next exclusive chapters of this wild ride. Smash that like button now to keep the algorithm alive, because this story deserves to shine. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What will they discover next? And, for the love of all that is good, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this epic showdown. Don't wait even one more second to join the community. Your support means everything.